Hey everyone. Hey, real quick. I just want to check to see if you're a member of the Coaches Site, because if you're not and you're tuning into the show, well, you probably should be. There is no cost or commitment to sign up, and you're going to be connected to a community of over 35,000 coaches representing 54 countries and 25% of the hockey coaches globally. Click the link in the show description below to get started. We'll even throw in a 10-day free trial so you get full access to our suite of premium content featuring some of the top coaches in the game, including many who have appeared on the Glass Now podcast. If you love coaching, you're going to love the Coaches Site. And now, on to the show. We could start here, Phil. You're driving into the office this morning. You're halfway through training camp.
No, not this morning. I just got here.
You just got here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I slept in.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, what's on your mind?
Training camp. I mean, it's been a good camp. Heinze last year came in and did a wonderful job. It was funny because the talk around training camp last year was like, oh man, it was really hard. Like Heinze put them through all this stuff. It's like, it's not hard. It's training camp.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing again this year. Working on some of the finer details of the systems, certain days there's special teams going on. I guess for me, I love seeing all that because it's the detail in which we play with. We are predictable inside our locker room, but unpredictable to the opponent. Mm-hmm. I think John does a lot of great stuff. For me, as a GM, I like to, I know what the older guys do. I know what they can bring to the table. For them, I just want them to be doing what they have to do to be ready for the start of the season and stay healthy.
Yeah.
The other side of it are the younger guys. That we've drafted. They've gone through a couple of years of development, maybe played a year in the minors or two. What steps are they taking? How are they handling this? Third or fourth training camp? Are they finally going to make a push? And those are the kind of the messages that I send to them too. Like my start of camp meeting is like, we won't give you an opportunity. You need to make your own opportunity. This is pro sports. We don't give anything. You got to take it.
Yeah.
And, create your own opportunity. And I'm looking for these younger guys to do that. If the door's open a little bit, kick it all the way open.
I'm sure you get access to just like a boatload of analytics, and that's really important. It's a part of our game now. But when you talk about some of these young players that are looking to kick that door in, what is maybe just the eye test or maybe your just gut feel when you say, you know what, that kid's ready. He's ready to be an NHL player now.
Energy, passion, emotion. I know you can skate. I know you can stick handle. I know you can do all that stuff. I want to see you put it all out there.
Yeah.
Make an impression. Do something. And it's disappointing when you don't see it. You see a young kid kind of just going through the motions. He's not really upsetting the apple cart. And no, you have 1 or 2 games that you get to prove to us that you should be here, or at least we should be thinking about you. And if you're not playing like that, you're only hurting yourself. You're in, he's in good defensive position or this or that, but play. Go out and do something. Block a shot, run somebody, get in a fight, do what, show us that you care.
Yeah.
Show us that you are not going to take no for an answer. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't.
What does that look like? Because you talk about the health of the players, and I would imagine that one of the things you have to balance during training camp is, as you said, you got some veteran players. They've been here before. You know that they care, and that you want those guys feeling 100% when the puck drops on opening night. And I know there was some chatter just around the NHL in preseason. There's been a couple of big hits, injuries, and there's sort of one fraction that are they shouldn't be trying to
level anybody open ice in preseason, and there's other people there, like, to your point, like, no, like, these players need to prove that they belong. How do you frame that to your players?
I mean, I don't really. Like, you have to let them do what they feel they need to do to be ready for the season. Like Marcus Foligno. We don't want Marcus Foligno getting in scraps in preseason or anything like that. And I know you're going to block shots, but if it's a really hard one, maybe I don't know. Yeah. Just stay healthy.
Just take a different angle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do what I did. Do the old flamingo.
Yeah.
But again, like with him, like he's a bigger guy. He's a physical guy. He needs to play that way in the preseason games that he has because he's got to get his body going.
Sure.
Get ready. You don't, with a guy like Spurge, we just, every time he goes back and he takes a big hit during preseason, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
But hey, look, that's the game we play too. You don't, if you're trying to be too careful out there, you might, open yourself up to injury even more.
No doubt. Following your playing career, you get into management. You start in a player development role with the Penguins. We talk about what players have to do to play in the National Hockey League. What are maybe some things that players, don't do that hold them back?
Honestly, the thing that I hear a lot from young players is, I'll do anything to play. I'll do anything. And a lot of the times it's not true.
Yeah.
They won't do anything.
Yeah.
Because you look at a roster, an NHL roster, and okay, there's one spot that's available maybe, or two spots, but it's on the fourth line. And some kids are like, well, I'm a top six. Yeah. I'm like, really? In what league? So they don't adjust their game. I think two of the prime examples that for my generation are Guy Carbonneau and Ian LePerrier. They both players they led the Quebec League in scoring. They turned pro. They made the NHL team, but they're like, well, I'm not going to be able to score. Yeah. So I'm going to turn myself into penalty killer, shot blocker, scrapper, whatever. But they're in the league. Even for myself, I was a high first round pick. I got picked by the time I turned pro, the New Jersey Devils were a very good established team with guys like John McClain, Stéphane Richer, Randy McKay. Our right side was, third line. My first year I was on the fourth line right wing. And then I moved up to the third line right wing, and that's where I stayed for 5 years. Yeah. And I provided energy. I hit. I fought. I, did what I had to do to stay on the team. So I played a specific role, and that kept me in the league. If I just said, I'm a top six, I don't know if I would have stuck around that long. So young kids get fixated on what they are. And, like, if they're coming up to our level, adjust. If you really want to play, if you really say you'll do anything, then do it.
I have a feeling that response is going to be replayed to a lot of players that play for these
good. I hope
coaches in the room. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. So as a player, as you mentioned, you were a high first round pick. You were, the upstart rookie coming in. You were a superstar and captain on some teams, and then later in your career, you were I sense, especially coming to Pittsburgh, like a veteran bringing in that added experience to hopefully put a team over the top. When you're building the Wild, like, what does that right mix look like to you?
Well, honestly, that's why I'm excited for this team this year, because I think the mix that we have, like, we have real strong veterans. We've got the Spurgeons, the Folignos, the Middletons, and guys like that. But then we've got this middle tier of guys who are like 26 to 23. Eriksson Ek, Boldy, Faber, Rossi, and and then we've got this good group of younger guys that are going to break through, like Liam Ogren, Buyam, Jiricek, guys like that. Hopefully you're off. So I like the mix that we have, like kind of up and down the lineup of veteran presence and younger players as well.
Totally. Are you aware how many pictures there are on the internet of you beating people up? No. There's quite a few, and
I'm sure there are a lot of me getting beat up too.
Well, maybe a mix, but I bring that up because I just in preparing for this conversation, was reminded. I think my recollections of Bill Guerin as you were a top 6 offensive player, but you played in an era where you needed to be have a varied skill set, I guess. But as somebody that is it fair to say you play with your heart on your sleeve?
Yes.
When you get into management where you maybe need a 30,000-foot view, you need to be thinking, a couple steps ahead. How did you manage that transition of when you're watching a game to just, stay measured and keep the big picture in mind?
Yeah, you know what? Because I always think, kind of about my own career, like when I'm watching, like, is it, guys will just have an off night. But guys are always trying. They're always nobody goes out there and says, I'm gonna have a terrible game tonight.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says that. These guys, they prepare each and every night the same way. They get ready, they go out there, they try some I remember some nights your legs just they feel like, like cinder blocks. You're wearing cinder blocks. So you gotta give guys the benefit of the doubt. The other thing is I watch from way up high. The game is so easy from up high.
Sure.
I actually I had 2 of my hometown buddies in town the last 2 nights, and I brought them to practice yesterday. And I brought them down on the bench. They were doing power play and penalty kill, and we're just watching. And they're like these guys are huge, they're fast, they're skilled, this and that. And it reminded me too of the speed of the game. So I've got to give these guys the benefit of the doubt if they have an off night. If it continues to go, then we, But the other thing is too is, I'm around a lot and I talk to the guys. I bust their chops and stuff. But I always just try to remember like what coaches or GMs, if I was ever talked to a certain way, what I liked, didn't like, and I just try to remember that stuff and not be too hard on the guys.
Sure.
With just the right level of giving them a little push.
The margins in the National Hockey League are so thin right now between the 32 teams. And I look at, I think Florida's a really good example where Bill Zito's been able to go and find value in players that, maybe were due for a bounce back, or maybe some people would have said they were past their prime. Heinz was here yesterday, and he mentioned Vladimir Tarasenko and how there was a real belief that still has a lot to offer. When you're watching players, what tells might you look for to say, I think this player still got something to offer and could be a valuable contributor? Yeah.
So, like in Vladdy's case, you could tell he just wasn't happy in Detroit. And I think that happens quite a bit where it's just not a good fit. He's not getting the not the opportunity, but like he's not in the same positions that he was, when he played in St. Louis. He was kind of on like the second power play, things like that. He just wasn't happy. So I think when we see that, we kind of do our due diligence and we find out, no, he isn't happy. He's actually miserable. Yeah. Bring him here, give him a fresh start, give him the attention, that he's looking for, kind of connect on the human element of it, make sure his, his family's all set up. He's big into his kids' youth hockey. So we've helped him with that. Just making sure that he knows that we care about him and we're going to help him. And we want him to get his game back to where it was before, but he's not alone. Just curious, like just as a player, like how much is team building just exactly what you described? It's letting players know that you care about them and doing those little things like getting their kids signed up for minor hockey, or maybe it's that their wife's interested in a certain organization and just making this feel like home as quickly as possible. I think it's so important. And just creating a relationship with them as a player, sometimes, if nobody talks to you or pays attention to you, or it makes nobody likes that.
For sure.
No human being likes that. So yeah, we do our best to connect with our players to make sure that they know that we care about them and we're taking care of them. Anything that their family needs, like healthcare wise or anything, like our team of doctors are ready for the the wives and the kids and this and that. Any way we can help them out, we will. But I think just connecting with them and creating relationships will make them happier. They want to be here, and it takes a lot of worries out of their minds too. And then they're free to focus on hockey.
You mentioned you break it with New Jersey. Lou Lamoriello, Hall of Famers, the GM. There's been a lot of, again, sort of discourse around the Islanders this year that, that now that he's no longer there, players can grow a beard and their hair long and all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm not here to debate facial hair, but I do think that, if...
Are you for it or against it?
I think...
you're for it.
Yeah, I'm for it. Yeah, exactly. But no, I think if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. And you've been, creating this identity for the Wild. And, we were down here last year and saw a game. And what stood out to me, this is a very hardworking, gritty team. How have you sort of defined the values of the team, not just to the players, but to the coaching staff, the scouting staff, and say, hey, here's what we're building here. And these are the type of puzzle pieces we need.
Yeah, everybody sees the game differently. Everybody, I guess, can believe in different things when it comes to team building. But for me, I want the team that I build. I want to be able to play our best game in the most hostile environment.
Yeah.
When we go on the road and we play in Winnipeg or in Vegas or and it's a big game, I want our guys to be able to handle that. God bless you. To be able to handle that and to be able to play any way you want to play it.
Yeah.
You want to play a fast-paced, high-skill game, we bring it on. You want to take it to the back alley, and it's a physical game, and and within that, be able to execute. Like that's what I want.
Sutter and Parise's contracts come off the books this year. So I'm sure that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
But, I don't sense it's as easy in the National Hockey League to say, like, well, we got some extra cap money, so we'll just, we'll get some new players and that'll put us over the top. Like, what are some of the other things that you look for beyond just, bringing in talent that you feel like, hey, these things can be the difference maker in those big games?
Yeah, Characters, in our criteria for amateur scouting, for making trades, for signing free agents, character is the number one criteria. If you don't have a high character team, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's just what I believe in, and it just starts there. If you have that, the guys, they're just going to put everything they have into it. They're going to be pros. They're going to be prepared. They're going to care about each other. They're going to play for each other. They're going to do the right things at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
Well, speaking of character, it's a good segue to the next question. So Saturday, February 15th of this year, I know where you were doing. So I was with my little guy. We were at a family day tournament. He's 6. And we live in this little town called Squamish. So we literally have 4 U9 teams taking over the Holiday Inn Express in Richmond, BC. And we've rented out the banquet room.
Yeah.
And all the parents, everybody's in red. And I, you know what, leading up to the Four Nations face-off, I wasn't drawn into it as much leading up to it. Not leading up to it, no. And because, it was 4 teams, but then, we got all the kids playing mini sticks and they're doing that. And then the puck drops. And it is electric. And before you know it, we look over our shoulder and the kids are trying to jersey each other. And they're saying, I'm Matthew Tkachuk, and trying to beat the wheels off each other. And then, a couple of the moms say, this is terrible for hockey. And I look at them, I'm like, I think this is going to be I think we are going to look back in the history of our game, and we're going to say between that game and the upcoming Olympics, we're going to see registration go up and to the right And because I think it drew so many people into our sport.
Did you cut those kids right away? The moms who said that?
No, we got it. Yeah, we got it. We're gonna give them the character talk though.
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah, we're gonna give them the Bill Guerin character talk. Yeah. So just first off, like I'm if I'm putting myself in your shoes, I'm like, I don't know how in that moment you're just not a fan. Like, what was your recollection of that experience?
Oh my God, I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah.
We went and we didn't know how the guys were going to approach it. I mean, it's right in the middle of the season, and you know, we know our guys hate Canada.
Yeah.
We know Canada hates us.
Totally. Yeah.
But it's also like, you know, right in the middle of the season, and that game started. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. And, you know, I was so proud of our team because they did put it all out there. And you know what, I was proud to be just associated with hockey, involved in that tournament, because all four teams, like I give all four teams credit, because those players, they made it happen. They made it happen because of the effort and the passion and the emotion that they put into it. They took our game to another level. And, you know, even after we lost in overtime in Boston, I went down and saw Doug Armstrong after the game. He was a GM for Team Canada, and congratulated him. And he said it the best. He said hockey was the big winner today.
Yeah, well said.
And I completely agree with him. And that really gave our game a shot in the arm, which I just loved. I was honored to be a part of it.
Jack Hughes was recently interviewed by Elliot Friedman on his podcast, and he had a really interesting take. He was asked about, you know, being a part of Team USA, and I'm just looking up here. He said, you know, what his experience as a young player being in that locker room. He just said, he goes, it was fascinating to look around in his words, all these alphas in the room, and just how that group sort of came together, and some players elevated into leadership roles and others maybe more supporting roles. You know, I was thinking about this, like, you know, again, when you've got an NHL team, like, it's just obvious you're going to have younger players. Like, that hierarchy is going to kind of define itself. But with Team USA, you know, you're just putting together the best of the best. How does that change maybe your direction on team building?
Not much, really.
No,
to be honest with you. I mean, I'm trying to put together the best team, and the leadership stuff, you know, like Jack said, like there's so many alphas in there.
Yeah.
But everything just kind of falls into place. Like it happens organically, where, you know, JT Miller's a louder guy. You know, he's gonna, you know, he's running the music, he's doing this, he's doing that. Austin Matthews is chilling out in the corner, not saying a word. You know, Jack Eichel's kind of in between, and you know, they all kind of just find their rhythm. But the big thing about it is we were just that will work itself out. The big thing was, who are we going to take that is going to be okay playing a different role that they normally play in the NHL? They're all, like you said, all alphas. Yeah. They're all superstars. They all play on the power play. Most of them kill penalties. What's going to happen when somebody's not on the power play? Yeah. That is normally on his NHL team's first power play.
Yeah.
But he's penalty killing. Who's going to buy into that? Who's going to be, you know, like if we don't think a guy's going to handle it, he's not on the team.
Yeah.
So we need those high character guys, team first thinkers, to buy in the role that the coaches are going to give them. Yeah. And we had it. And that was a big part of the team building in that.
You did an interview with NHL.com in the spring, and in your words, you said, referring to the upcoming Olympics, that we have to win. And I've, you know, just in doing some research for this, you've repeated that a number of times. And I will confirm that, you know, I'm Canadian. At these international tournaments, you're right. We don't like Team USA. We respect that, you know, it flows both ways. And so, you know, up in Canada, people are like, this Bill Guerin guy says, like, we have to win. And I'm like, yeah, what else is he going to say? But, you know, there's another, I guess, answer where you could say it's one day at a time, or we'll follow the process. But, you know, when the stakes are that high, is there something to be said for just saying, hey, like, let's just call it what it is. Let's draw a line in the sand and say, this is the standard. Like,
yeah. I mean, look, we do. And it's been too long since we have in a best on best. And I really believe that this is can be the greatest generation of hockey players the United States has ever put out. But we need to win. We need to win for that to be the case. We need to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way I feel, and that's exactly what I'm going to say. It's not like I'm not saying that. If I think it would be worse if I said we're gonna like you go on, but like no, as a country, as you know, USA Hockey, we need to win one of these, and we need to win this upcoming Olympics. So players appreciate it. Yeah, and I do. You know what you did say that, like the hate that we have for Canada and Canada has for us. There's also a deep respect for all those guys, and I think that's what makes it great too, because you know, you can leave it all out there and just you know, kind of move on, but it just makes for great hockey.
It is. No, it is. It is. It's great theater. You started your managerial career in 2014. If you could go back and give yourself some advice as you started the second stage of your career, what would it be?
Oh man, just listen more, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always talking, but I you know, Jim Rutherford did give me some great advice one day, and he just said, you know, you're very ambitious. I get it. You know, like you want to. I know you want to be a general manager, but just sometimes just let the, like, we'd go in the coach's room after a game, and I would give my thoughts and this and that. And he just said, just Billy, let the coaches talk, and we listen. Yeah. And that's it. And I just think that was such a valuable lesson that I learned that day. But yeah, it was,
that's sound advice.
You can always learn more by listening.
Totally. We've got a lot of high school coaches in the audience. You didn't play high school, but you did play for the Springfield Olympics. I think Springfield Picks, is that right?
Picks, yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking before we hit record here that you started playing at 14 years old. You were playing with players as old as 20. You know, did you have? I would think that you would have had opportunities to guess. It would have been the Quebec Major Junior League or move on or leave home. But you know, what was that decision to just stay at home? And I'm assuming playing with players that you grew up with. Yeah,
I wanted to play in college. It was actually funny. I was probably 15, and there was this junior scout, and he came up to me and my dad after the game, and he said, "Hey, would you like to come play for us?" I'm like, "Well, where are you from?" And like, where? He goes, "The Western Hockey League."
Oh, really?
The New Westminster Bruins. And I, being from Massachusetts, I heard Bruins. I was like, oh, that would be cool. And then I'm like, well, where's, like, we looked at a map. I'm like, where's this New Westminster?
Say no smart.
And I'm like, and I went all the way out west to like British Columbia. I'm like, no, I'm not going out there.
Yeah.
But I had, the Peterborough Petes and Kitchen Rangers, and I actually got drafted by the Sudbury Wolves.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yep. 3rd round.
Wow.
Yeah, they knew I wasn't coming.
Yeah.
But no, I wanted to play college hockey.
Yeah.
And you know what? I played for an amazing coach named Gary Deneen, who was a Canadian.
Yeah.
He represented Canada twice, I think, at the Olympics. Just an amazing, amazing hockey guy. And I was so lucky. I was just so lucky to have him in my life. And it was crazy. He was so far ahead of his time. We didn't have one system. We never practiced a power play. He had this, he would say "a" at the beginning and end of every sentence.
Yeah, we do that.
And I remember one of my teammates says, "Hey, Gary, can we practice the power play?" Yeah. He goes, "A, you got one more guy on the ice than them. Figure it out. That was our practice. That was our power play advice. But no, he was so far ahead of his time. He emphasized practice more than the games, and it was always up-tempo practices, skill work, quick feet, all that stuff. And then when I was a young kid, I would go to his hockey schools, and this is how far ahead of his time it was, because he was doing small area game stuff back then. And then I became an instructor there, so I went the full gamut. But the sessions would go. You're on the ice for an hour. It'd be goalies in one corner, and we would get split up by levels. So we had the A's, the B's, the C's, and the A's in that corner, B's in that corner, C's in that corner, and then you'd have your own two instructors running each corner, and it'd be like circles going through cones.
Okay.
All that stuff. It was all small area game stuff, and I was doing that back in the 70s, when I was 7, 8 years old. And then those became our practices, in junior.
I'm so glad you brought him up because, just in the work that we do, occasionally there's a coach that maybe isn't that well known, but just in conversation, point to whether they played for them or coached them and say this person was awesome. You hear that name enough, you're there's almost like a coaching tree, and he's definitely one of those people that from every layer of the game, his name gets referenced.
And I know you're friends with Gene Riley too, who was one of Gary's
disciples.
Yeah, disciples, and so many guys like Gene, another guy, Lincoln Flagg, who started a junior program for the Hurricanes down in Carolina there, and just so many players have come out of that organization with the basis of skill and character and all that stuff that he taught us. It was great. Yeah, some of my I was 14. Some of my teammates were in junior college.
Really?
Yeah, and I used to get so mad at my parents because we'd have a Saturday night game. They're going out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to go out with the guys. My dad was like, the hell you are. No, you are not going out with the guys. And I didn't have my license, for the first 2 years of junior. So Timmy Logan would always pick me up and bring me to practice.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Just a really good example, just how the game has changed so much.
So we played at the Big E Coliseum, and that was kind of our version of the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
The Big E, the Eastern States Exposition, is, it's not nearly as big as the fair, but it's pretty good size. And they have, the rodeo, and that was the Springfield Indians played there, and they went to the new Civic Center. We took that one. And, but then when high school hockey, so we had normal, for the first 2 weeks of the season, we had normal practice times, but then high school hockey would start.
Yeah.
And they had all the ice times.
Yeah.
So we practiced at 11 o'clock at night.
And you're in what, grade 9?
I'm in, grade 9.
Wow.
So I would go home, do my homework, and then take a nap, and then wake up and go to the rink and get back at, 1 o'clock in the morning, get up and do it all over again.
Unreal.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Unreal. Well, so that journey takes you to, it's funny how things come full circle, right? Because you get drafted down the road at the old Met Center.
Yeah.
So what do you remember about that day?
Yeah, honestly, so I told you my buddies were just, two of my buddies were just in town. My one buddy was with me that day. I brought him to the draft.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I'm I was picking him up at the airport and driving back, and they see the mall. And he's like, is that where the Met Center was? I'm like, yeah. He's like, God, that's so long ago. It's incredible. But that was, it was amazing. I have fond memories of that, and it was a good day. And I was lucky enough to get drafted by New Jersey. Winnipeg was picking right before them. So I kind of missed that, which was fine.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, talking about the draft and just development and practice. There's a lot of man, there's a lot of chatter here in Minnesota with high school hockey, and be curious to get your take when you're evaluating players. Like, how much do you look into whether they play stay at home and play high school versus say going to the USHL, or does that?
It depends. I mean, I just think the kids have to do what they feel is right for them.
Yeah.
And some kids that's staying home and playing high school hockey. It's really good. I love going to the tournament. I think it's spectacular.
Unreal.
It's great. Like I think some people get it in their head, like if you travel more or if you leave home, or it's better.
Yeah.
It's not always better.
Yeah.
It can be. I mean, it can be, but like I love the way Minnesota youth hockey and high school hockey is set up. I mean, it hasn't changed much. I know some things are creeping in, but I always say, like, for you guys out there, it is so worth fighting for, like, to keep it the way it is, and to keep, like, when these kids they get to play for their town, they have a gazillion teams. The guy who works for me, Matt Sells, his daughters tried out for hockey. There were like 150 girls at this one age group, like, trying out for these teams. I mean, that's incredible. Like, It's so awesome. And I just think it's such a great way that things are done here. And, out east, it's sad to say that we've lost that. It's all travel hockey and this and that. It's like, oh my God, like half the time it's just, it's just a cash cow. But I really appreciate how it's done here.
Well, I'll just say it's pretty special. I had a chance to come to my first state tournament last year and telling the audience when we kicked this off, like, it's just, I think everybody here's they've grown up with it, but when you're an outsider like me and you see that, you're like,
it's
holy
amazing.
Shit, it's
amazing. I send videos to my buddies. I'm like, this is high school hockey here.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I love it. It's awesome.
Just wrapping up here, Bill, really special moment in the National Hockey League with Marc-Andre Fleury getting to play one less exhibition game with Pittsburgh. And I think just, again, without knowing him, just the way he seemed to show up every day, his attitude, I can't imagine just what a great teammate he was. You played with him, obviously was a member of your team here with the Wild. Like, just any comments on Marc-Andre?
Yeah, I mean, he's an A+ human. Like, and to be honest with you, that is one of the reasons I wanted to bring him here so badly, because I wanted the guys that we had to see a true Hall of Famer, like a true Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame person, how he goes about his everyday, the way he treats other people, the way he prepares for practices, games, his competitiveness, his humility, all those things that are so important. I wanted our players to have that person around so they could learn from him, and I think they have. I think they saw this guy. Like, it's no joke. Everybody loves this guy.
Yeah.
And it's for a good reason. It's because it's authentic too. It's not BS. It's real. And I think he had such a huge impact on our team and this organization.
Bill, goes without saying, I know between the season, the Olympics, I mean, man, you're on a treadmill right now for the next 8 months. We really appreciate you taking time to speak.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.